lot of very big, very powerful ships sailing to Iran right now. And it would be great if we didn't have to use them. Okay?
Can you say what the message was that you shared with Iranians?
Well, I told them two things. Number one, no nuclear. And number two, stop killing protesters. They're killing them by the thousands. You know, I stopped 837 hangings 2 weeks ago.
You're watching the news, and suddenly there's breaking coverage. The president just ordered a military strike in another country. No vote, no debate, just done. Wait, can the president actually do that? Aren't we supposed to vote on going to war? Today, we're breaking down one of the most misunderstood pieces of American law, the War Powers Act. And trust me, this affects you more than you think. What's up, everyone? If you're new here, welcome to News Vault, where we break down complex political topics into bite-sized, digestible content. If you enjoy this video, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. Now, let's get into it. Here's where it gets messy. The U.S. Constitution actually gives war powers to two different branches of government. Yeah, you heard that right, two. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress, and only Congress, the power to declare war. Pretty straightforward, right? The Founding Fathers wanted to make sure that one person couldn't just drag the entire country into conflict on a whim. But here's the twist. Article 2 makes the president the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So while Congress declares war, the president commands the military. See the problem? It's like giving someone the keys to a car, but telling someone else they're the only one who can decide where to drive. This created a gray area that's been exploited for decades. Here's a shocking fact. Congress hasn't formally declared war since 1942. That's right, World War II was the last time. Yet we've been involved in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and countless other military operations since then. So what happened? How did presidents start launching military operations without Congress declaring war? Enter the War Powers Resolution of 1973. To understand the War Powers Act, we need to rewind to one of America's most controversial conflicts, Vietnam. By the early 1970s, the Vietnam War had been raging for years. Thousands of American soldiers had died, and the public was furious. But here's the kicker. Congress never actually declared war on Vietnam. Instead, President Lyndon Johnson used something called the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, passed by Congress in 1964, which gave him broad authority to use military force in Southeast Asia. It wasn't a declaration of war, just permission to do whatever he thought necessary. As the war dragged on and casualties mounted, Congress felt they'd lost control. They'd essentially given the president a blank check, and he'd written himself into a war that lasted over a decade. In 1973, Congress decided enough was enough. They wanted to reclaim their constitutional authority over war-making decisions. So, over President Nixon's veto, they passed the War Powers Resolution, commonly called the War Powers Act. The goal? To prevent any future president from waging prolonged military campaigns without congressional approval. Alright, let's break down what this law actually requires. The War Powers Act has three main components. First, consultation. The president is supposed to consult with Congress when introducing U.S. forces into hostilities whenever possible. Notice that word, whenever possible. That's vague, and presidents have used that vagueness to their advantage. Second, notification. Within 48 hours of deploying troops, the president must notify Congress in writing. This part usually happens. Presidents send these notifications regularly. Third, and here's the big one, the 60-day clock. Without congressional authorization, the president must withdraw forces within 60 days. There's also a 30-day extension allowed for safe withdrawal, making it 90 days total. So theoretically, a president can deploy troops anywhere in the world, but if Congress doesn't approve, those troops have to come home within 2 to 3 months. Sounds pretty clear, right? Well, in practice, it's been anything but. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The War Powers Act has been largely ignored or sidestepped by almost every president since it was passed. Presidents from both parties, Democrats and Republicans, have found creative ways around it. How? Method 1, just don't call it hostilities. When President Obama authorized airstrikes in Libya in 2011, his administration argued it didn't constitute hostilities under the War Powers Act because no ground troops were involved and no Americans were being fired upon. Seriously, they claimed dropping bombs wasn't hostilities. Method 2, get alternative authorization. After 9/11, Congress passed the Authorization for Use of Military Force, or AUMF. This broad authorization has been used to justify military operations in multiple countries for over 2 decades, far beyond what Congress originally intended. Method 3. Claim the law is unconstitutional. Several presidents have argued that the War Powers Act itself violates the Constitution by limiting the president's powers as commander-in-chief. They comply with the notification requirement, but reject the idea that Congress can force them to withdraw troops. Method 4. Speed matters. Some operations are so quick that they're over before the 60-day clock even becomes an issue. Strike, accomplish the mission, withdraw. Congress barely has time to debate.
The result? We've had military operations in Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, and numerous other places, all without formal declarations of war and with questionable compliance with the War Powers Act. You might be thinking, okay, interesting history lesson, but why should I care? Because this is about your voice in the most important decision a country can make. When we send troops into combat, we're risking American lives. We're spending your tax dollars, billions of them. We're potentially creating enemies and affecting international relationships for generations. The founders wanted Congress, the most representative branch, with 535 members answerable to you, to make these decisions. But when presidents bypass this system, your elected representatives don't get a say. You don't get a say. Think about it. Should one person, no matter how trusted, have the power to unilaterally start military operations? Or should that decision require debate, discussion, and a vote by the people's representatives? This isn't about trusting or distrusting any particular president. It's about the system of checks and balances that's supposed to prevent the concentration of power. And here's the thing. Public opinion matters. When citizens understand these issues and demand accountability, Congress is more likely to assert its authority. When we're disengaged, presidents have a freer hand. So where do things stand today? There's growing bipartisan concern about presidential war powers. Both progressives and conservatives have called for reforming or repealing the 2001 AUMF because it's been stretched far beyond its original purpose. Some lawmakers want to strengthen the War Powers Act with clearer definitions and actual enforcement mechanisms. Others argue it should be repealed because it's ineffective and potentially unconstitutional. Meanwhile, modern warfare has changed. We have drones, cyber operations, and special forces conducting missions worldwide. Does a drone strike count as introducing forces into hostilities? What about cyber attacks? The law was written in 1973. It wasn't designed for 21st century warfare. There's also the speed factor. Modern conflicts can escalate incredibly quickly. Terrorist threats don't wait for congressional debate. Presidents argue they need flexibility to respond to rapidly evolving situations. It's a genuine dilemma. How do we balance the need for swift action against threats with the constitutional requirement of congressional authorization? So, can the president declare war? Constitutionally, no. Only Congress can. But can the president use military force? Absolutely, and they do, regularly. The War Powers Act was supposed to bridge this gap, but after 50 years, it's clear the debate is far from settled. Here's what I want you to take away. Stay informed. Ask questions when military action is taken. Demand that your representatives in Congress exercise their constitutional duties. What do you think? Should presidents have broad authority to use military force, or should Congress reclaim its war powers? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all, and I want to hear from you. If this video helped you understand this complicated topic, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content breaking down the politics that actually affect your life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.